Welcome to Johnson Consulting Conversations. Today we have truly an inspiring conversation ahead. Our guest has dedicated his life to service, first through decades of leadership in funeral service, and now through a mission that's touching the lives of veterans across our nation. And what started as a moment of reflection at a veteran's funeral has grown into a national movement. And today we're going to hear about that journey and learn how each of us can play a part in honoring those who continue to honor our fallen heroes. Our guest today is Rich Darby. Rich served as Chief Operating Officer of Greenwood Incorporated, a family-owned group encompassing burial vault manufacturing, memorialization, plastics innovation, and funeral home services. A third-generation leader with over 30 years of experience. He guided strategic growth across the Greenwood family of companies, including Tri-Guard Burial Vaults and Tri-Guard Memorials and Greenwood Plastics and Sunset Funeral Homes, helping to maintain its trusted reputation for more than 60 years. Rich retired from his executive and funeral directing roles in June of 2022 to focus on Operation Honor Guard, the national nonprofit he founded to support volunteer Honor Guard units. And the organization helps to equip those volunteers with uniforms, resources, and training while raising awareness and recruiting new members. Rich, welcome to Johnson Consulting Conversations. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Lacy. And as I said earlier, before we were just kind of chatting, I would like to thank you for your support. You've been one of my biggest fans and been with me and rooting for me through social media for over a decade now. So I appreciate you having me here. And then when you read that long list of things that I did, that explains why I have gray hair. So I've been doing this way too long.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and it's my honor to support you and your mission. And I want to start at the beginning. I want you to take us back to that sweltering August day in 2013 at Sunset Memorial Park in Danville, Illinois, that 92-degree day with 92% humidity. I've heard you talk about this day many times. What was going through your mind as you sat there in your suit, and what exactly did you see that really turned your mind and started thinking and leading to this change?
Well, first of all, the first thing that was in my mind was it is really hot. I can feel the sweat dripping down my back. I could feel the sweat inside my suit coat, and I just wanted to get back in the coach and head back to the air conditioning at the funeral home. It was bright sunshine, just a beautiful day, but just miserable. And that's where I kind of had that aha moment. And I looked to my left, and there stood our local honor guard, the Danville American Legion Post 210. And I looked, and each of the honor guard members, they were sweating. I could actually see the sweat dripping down their temples. And I just thought to myself, Rich, shame on you. And how dare you feel sorry for yourself when we have these members that have been out here at the cemetery probably for an hour waiting for us to get there. And they weren't feeling sorry for themselves. They were performing a job. And I just looked at them and I thought, wow, shame on me.
Well, we know that many of those honor guards are in their 70s, their 80s, and they're wearing extremely worn uniform jackets, mismatched pants, frayed flags are there, faded hats as well. At what point did feeling sorry for yourself transform and give you that aha moment of, I have to help these veterans? Was that instantaneous, or did you build that over time after you had that aha moment?
It happened at that funeral service as I'm a very visual person. And so I'm always studying things. And as I was looking at the honor guard members, and you're right, in the 70s, 80s, in fact, a couple of 90-year-olds were there too at the cemetery. And I was kind of looking them over and just kind of thinking, wow, their age, number one. Number two, I started looking at their uniforms and started looking at their suit jackets. And I noticed that a lot of the suit jackets were kind of tattered. And I noticed a lot of there were like strings hanging off, and they just looked like they'd been dry cleaned way too many times. And they all had gray pants on, which, they were blue and gray. And that sounds phenomenal. It sounds like a really great thing. But I looked across all of them, and there were several shades of gray, and nobody matched. And that's kind of when I had that moment of, okay, they must need help. And so after that service, I got back to the funeral home. I did get back in the coach, and I did get back to air conditioning, and I called them. And I called them up and said, "Hey, I want to meet at the post tomorrow." And so, we met there at the post, and they in our Danville post, they have a bar. And so we met at the bar. I wasn't drinking, but we met at the bar, and I just kind of met with them all and said, "Hey, I want to raise money for you." And it was met with defiance at first. They're like, "No, what do you mean? We're the Legion. We raise our own money." And I said, "Okay, I get that, and I understand that." I said, "Who raises money for your honor guard uniforms?" And at that point, all the heads went down, and they said, "Well, we don't have a fund. We don't have a fund for our honor guard uniforms." And I said, "Aha, I want to help you do that." And so, we formulated a plan at that point.
So let's talk about that very first fundraiser that raised $5,000 for the American Legion Post 210 in Danville. You are now approaching $3 million. When did you realize that this wasn't going to be a one-time local effort, but something much, much bigger?
Sure. In fact, we have bypassed the 3 million mark, and we're making our way. We're getting closer to 4 million. I noticed that it was going to be something fairly significant when I got a phone call from a TV station in Champaign, Illinois. And the general manager called me and said, "Hey, I heard what you're doing." I said, "Well, what am I doing?" And he said, "Well, I heard about your fundraiser in Danville for the local honor guard." And he said, "My dad died when I was young, and we had the honor guard at his funeral." And he said that really resonated with me. And he said our TV station every year has a day of giving event, and we have a telethon, and we want to have your fundraiser as our day of giving nonprofit. And I said, "Well, Kobe, his name's Kobe Cooper. He's now a board member." I said, "I'm not a nonprofit right now." And he said, "Well, don't worry about that." He says, "We'll find a way around that." And we use the Danville American Legion nonprofit status. So I came up with the name Operation Honor Guard. And so we had a telethon with them, and we turned the $5,000 into $30,000 the next year. And then I thought to myself, okay, this is something that not only resonates with the people in Danville, but it resonates with people, regionally. And so it started to grow from there. And at that point, once I got the call from the one TV station, I have understood that TV stations news stations are kind of like funeral homes. It's a small world. And so they go to their little conferences or whatever, and they start talking. So the next thing I know, I get a phone call from a TV station, Denver, Colorado, a TV call from a station in Knoxville, Tennessee, and just kind of realized from there, okay, we got something here.
Now, most people probably assume that someone like the military or the VA, they pay for those honor guard uniforms and equipment. What's the actual reality that most people don't understand about how these volunteer veterans are outfitting themselves?
Sure, that's a great question. What most people think, and especially John Q. Public, is they think that the military provides everything. And what was in the beginning with these honor guards and what's happening now, it's kind of changed. Several, of these American Legion posts, most of these, they're called Veteran Service Organization honor guards. And they're usually affiliated with a VFW post, American Legion, Marine Corps League. A lot of them have posts and actually have buildings. And throughout the years, the buildings have been very successful. And you had a lot of the members, a lot of the World War I veterans and World War II veterans were very, very active. And so through their dues each year, there was a lot of money, and there were surpluses that they could run these honor guards. But over time now, the World War IIs, of course, are gone. World War Ones or the World War Ones are gone. The World War IIs are they're not very active anymore. And so the amount of dues that are coming into these American Legion posts have gone down significantly. And so these organizations are hurting. And they're hurting not only to maintain their post, to pay the light bill. They don't have the money to take care of the honor guard uniforms. And so many of them, a lot of these honor guard members are footing their own bill. They're buying their own uniforms themselves. And this isn't every honor guard, in the United States. I do get emails from people saying, hey, you're not telling the right story. Yeah, there are some thriving American Legion posts, thriving VFW posts, but that's not the norm. They are the few at this point. And so a lot of these individuals and a lot of these veterans are on Social Security, and they are paying their own gas. They're dry cleaning their uniforms. They're buying their own shirts, their boots, their hats. And I just don't think that's right. I don't think they should have to do that.
I know that it cost about $800 to outfit one honor guard member completely. Would you walk us through what that $800 actually covers and why these costs can't be absorbed by American Legion Post or VFW organizations themselves?
Sure. So the $800 comes into play. It is basically for like the blazer, the pants, the shirt, the hat, the gloves, the shoes, a winter jacket. If you total all that up, it's $800. We can go a bit further if we wanted to get rain gear. Some of the American Legion of VFW guys, I do know that they have like sweaters for the fall. We can easily rack up $1,200 to $1,500 really quick. And that's just to outfit one honor guard member.
Because I follow you so closely on social media, I feel like I know more about the honor guard than I ever anticipated, especially when it comes to the numbers. With an estimated 10,000 veteran service organizations throughout the United States and an average of 12 members per honor guard. And you've mentioned that you're looking at 60 or $96 million that is needed. How did you arrive at these numbers? And what surprised you most about the research of the true scope of the problem?
Sure. So, first of all, how I got looking at that number is when I first started Operation Honor Guard. I'm just a dumb funeral director, and I thought, okay, here I am, got this up and running, and I need to reach out and see who else is doing this. And so I started, researching, and there are no other organizations raising money for honor guard members. And then I kind of, thought to myself, wow, that's a little scary. And then so I started doing research and trying to figure out, well, how many honor guards are out there in the United States? And I found a report that was done by the Department of Defense. And that's where I got the 10,000 Veteran Service Organization honor guard number from. And so what I'm finding out by talking to honor guards across the U.S., there are some honor guards that have 20 members, some have 3 members, but a good average is 12. And so if you take the 10,000 veteran service organizations that are out there and the 12-member honor guard, that's 120,000 honor guard members across the United States. And then if you take the 120,000 times $800 a uniform, that comes to $96 million. And that's my jaw dropped when I put the pen to the paper and realized that. And I thought to myself, here I am, we've raised almost $4 million, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
You've talked about the aging of honor guard members and the challenge of recruiting younger veterans to step up. What's happening on the ground that's making this recruitment so difficult? And what happens when communities can't find enough honor guards to volunteer? Right.
And another great question. What we're finding out is that there's a definite disconnect. I was watching a national news network a few weeks ago, and it had an individual on there. He was a veteran, and he was a younger veteran. I think he was a Iraqi veteran, and he was explaining why the younger veterans aren't getting involved nowadays. He just said that the old American Legion, the old VFW post model doesn't work for these younger veterans. These younger veterans envision going to that American Legion or VFW post, and there's just a bunch of people sitting at a bar. And a lot of these Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans are more family oriented. And so I don't know if these organizations are going to have to start changing the way that they do the posts and have to, build onto the buildings and allow kids to come in and try something that effect. As I recruit and as I send out social media posts, I actually get emails back saying, "Hey, I'm interested in being an honor guard member, but I don't want to join that old American Legion post in town." And so I just think that somehow these national organizations are going to have to pivot and figure out what they need to do. Of course, the Vietnam veterans, we all know what happened to them when they came home. Weren't treated very well, and so they haven't engaged in the veteran community very much. Starting now to see a little bit of a trend, starting to see some of these Vietnam veterans that are sitting home bored, wanting to become more engaged. And I've noticed lately, as I have gotten emails from these individuals saying, "Hey, I want to join my local honor guard," that I see a lot more Vietnam people now. So that's a plus.
Let's talk about the Operation Honor Guard three-prong approach, which is raising money, recruiting younger members, and heightening awareness. Which of these three have proven to be the most challenging, and why?
Um, it's recruiting. It's recruiting the younger veterans. That's just something that it's just a constant. Trying to get these younger people to step up. I just was talking with the Indianapolis group yesterday. I was able to give the Indianapolis Honor Guard, that they serve over 600 veterans a year. I gave them a $10,000 check yesterday, which was great. I loved it. But they're saying last year that they buried 6 of their members, and then they may get 3 to replace, and so they're down 3 right off the bat. And so again, it's just a constant trying to get these younger veterans to step up. And so that is something that we are really starting to look at and put an effort into, is how do we recruit, and how do we get them to join.
Now, since 2013, over 200 organizations have benefited from Operation Honor Guard grants. Can you share a story about one Honor Guard unit that was particularly moved, you, and maybe one that's really struggling, perhaps, before receiving your support?
Yeah, and really, as I think about this, I can't say that it's just one. The great thing is it's the rural. It's the small honor guards that this has affected the most. A lot of these American Legion posts and VFW posts in mid-sized towns to large metropolitan areas, they have they have the posts where they have a bar, they serve food, they have poker machines, so they have income. They have income coming in. I guess the greatest thing that Operation Honor Guard has done is we've saved a lot of these rural honor guards, and I get thank you notes, and I get pictures sent to me where these rural honor guards, "Hey, we all bought shirts this year from our grant that we got from you." And so that's so heartwarming to me, and to see them each and every year when they come to our telethon events, I just start seeing that they start looking sharper and sharper. And it warms my heart, because the rural communities are the ones that are really suffering here. And something that I'm starting to do and having to help facilitate. And your second part of your question is what do we do when these communities don't have the honor guards? They're starting to come together. I'm starting to work on, instead of having a town with an honor guard, starting to have an all county group. And starting, and sometimes some of these groups, they will travel 50, 60 miles to a cemetery to help honor a veteran. I know in Knoxville, Tennessee, sometimes they will travel clear to Nashville, Tennessee, to help, provide the military rights. And that's a crazy distance to have to do it.
I want to talk about when an honor guard applies for grants from Operation Honor Guard. How do you evaluate and prioritize those requests? And talk a little bit about the factors that determine the size of grants that you do award.
First of all, it's what is their need? Sometimes I'll have people, send me a request, and then we'll, just say, hey, we're just getting ready to form a guard. We're starting out from scratch here. So that, number one, it's need. Number two is how many members do you have? And number three is how many funerals do you do a year? Just like the Indianapolis group that we presented the check to yesterday, have 35 members, and they do 600 funerals a year. So imagine the wear and tear on their uniforms, how many times that they're going out. They told me on every once in a while, on any given Saturday, they can have 9 funerals on a Saturday.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the criteria that we base it upon. Right now the model is based upon our a good portion of it is our telethon events, where I actually have the honor guards there working and holding buckets at collection sites. And so it's a sweat equity program. So, hey, guys, guys and gals, I need you to man a collection site and hold a bucket for me. And if you show up, and if you're part of the telethon, you're going to get more money than those that don't. And that's another criteria as well.
Now, in the areas where the local fundraisers are held, all money collected stays in that community. How does the local approach help to build support? And have you seen those communities become more invested once they understand that their donations are helping their own local veterans?
Yes, absolutely. I have watched, the trend start, and I have watched individuals. I have watched more honor guard members show up. I have watched more people drive up to the collection sites. I get people text me, email me. I'll be out and about in the grocery store asking me when's the fundraiser this year. When I was somewhere in a store, and a little kid came up and tugged on my pant leg and said, "Hey, you're the honor guard guy." And so we have started, a movement that I didn't really realize in the beginning what I was doing and how much of a need there is for it. And so when we have this local fundraiser, we take these honor guard members, and all of you on this this call today, you're funeral directors, and you've been there, and you watch, the military rites performed. And they do their thing, and everybody leaves the cemetery, and the honor guard's there. And so they don't get thanked very often. They kind of get taken for granted. It's just, everybody's like, okay, hey, they're here, they did their thing, thank you. And everybody goes. And so what we do is we turn these honor guards into rock stars for a day. And to see the pride when people pull up in a car, jump out and kiss somebody, give them a kiss on the cheek. It's just incredible.
Well, the National Day of Giving is your signature fundraising event, and that was held on May 14th. Walk us through what happens on that day and how you've expanded it from Illinois to 5 states, and what makes that model work.
Well, first of all, I don't know if any of you remember, Lacy, you're probably too young to remember the old Jerry Lewis telethon, the Labor Day telethon. And so it's basically that model. It's, you get on TV. And so we work with news station affiliates, and they will host a 13-hour telethon, for us. And 2 weeks prior to the telethon event, they're holding commercials talking about the need and what's going on. And so there's plenty of promotion that goes on for this. And, that the buy-in of the media has been huge. And they're my voice. That they get us out there.
Well, you've hosted telethons, you've worked with local TV stations, and you've said that you just can't scale it right. What are the specific barriers that you're hitting when you try to take your fundraising model national? And what is the ideal scalable solution look like to you?
Sure. The model that we use right now, the local telethon, it is a magical day, but we deal with a lot of cash. And it's a lot of work. I've dealt with some TV stations. I've dealt with some funeral homes where it sounds like a great idea in the beginning, and then when the day comes and they realize that what the work is involved, shortcuts are taken, things aren't done the way that the playbook was supposed to be done. And so it hasn't always been a great scenario. And so there's been some areas where I've had to say goodbye to some partners and just say, hey, this isn't working out. And so, I can tell you in East Central Illinois and West Central Indiana, we'll raise $130,000 in a day with our telethon. And that's over 9 collection sites. And think about all the volunteers, and that's a lot of cash. And that's a lot of checks, and that's a lot of deposits into the bank, and that's a lot of keeping track of the money. And, one thing as a founder of a nonprofit, I'm always worried about is that money. And when you got cash, that can be enticing and tempting for people. And so I always got to make sure I got the right people doing it. And so, you don't want to get a black eye. That can ruin this organization. So, as I've tried to grow this and work with people, I've been like, this day of giving approach where I have the local TV stations and a partner and the money counting, I can't do it across 50 states. And so ideally for me is to get on board with a media conglomerate. Right now, we've had really good success with a conglomerate by the name of Nexstar. Nexstar owns over 200 news stations across the United States. They own WGN in Chicago, News Nation, and so what I'm looking to do, especially next year, is to try and get a meeting with the head person at Nexstar, who's a very well-known person, nationally, and it's kind of funny. His name is Sean Compton. We had a board meeting, Operation Honor Guard did, and I was telling the board members that I need to find a way to get a hold of this Sean Compton. And my wife Jill is on our board, and after our board meeting, she came to me and she said, "Rich, Sean Compton's from my hometown, and I know his sister very well." And so I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And so if we can get Nexstar to jump on board with us and get them to hold a day of giving event for us where it's an online day of giving. The easiest donation that we can process is an online donation. As where somebody goes in and hits the donate online button, they put in a credit card number, and then we know immediately it goes right into my system. They immediately get emailed a tax receipt, and we're done. And so that to me is to host the National Day of Giving across 200 TV stations. That's my dream.
Now, since retiring in June of 2022, you've been able to focus much more fully on Operation Honor Guard. How has that transition changed your approach, and what have you been able to accomplish with more dedicated time?
Yes, I have been able to actually work on the mission instead of working in the mission. And when I say that, before, when I was being the COO of all my family's companies, I was working maybe 5 to 10 hours a week on Operation Honor Guard, and most of that was approving payables and taking in and accounting for the donations, and it was more just working on the operations itself. And now being retired, especially more in the winter time. And I will tell you, in the summertime, I will go out and go fishing or, work out in my yard. And I'm probably spending 20 to 25 hours on Operation Honor Guard. But in the wintertime, it's 30, 40, sometimes 50 hours a week. And so it allows me to focus on the strategies. It allows me to send out more emails. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I can't tell you who it is, but I just got an email confirmation last week, and I just landed a big celebrity endorsement. His father served in Korea on the Honor Guard, and then when his father passed away, they had the Honor Guard at his funeral. And I just reached out to the management company that manages him, and I started out with somebody really low at that management team, and then I kind of got handed up and up and up. And the next thing I know, I was talking directly to his manager. And I just got an email confirmation back saying, yes, this individual would like to get involved and would love to shoot an endorsement video and do a social media post for you. And this is somebody that has 10 million followers on their Facebook. So this is this is somebody, and I can't say who, because I'm okay. I got the confirmation. I don't have the video yet, and so I can't put it out there. But this is huge for me and for Operation Honor Guard to get this out there. And then hopefully, if this does come to fruition, and then you see who it is, you'd be like, well, of course he did this. Everybody loves him, and he does this stuff. And so it'll make sense. And now you've heard it here first before it's come out, but that has allowed me to do this kind of a thing. We just recently hooked up with General David Petraeus. General David Petraeus is the past CIA director, but he ran our military forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we have if you go to operationhonorguard.us, there is a video of him, an endorsement from him as well. So being retired, I now have time to reach out and try to, gain these relationships.
That is awesome. Breaking news on Johnson
Breaking
Consulting
news.
Conversations. Now, you've mentioned in previous interviews that you would love to see every funeral home in the country make a $250 annual donation to Operation Honor Guard. What is your pitch to the funeral directors?
Dear funeral director, I'm working for you. You don't realize this. I answer emails 7 days a week. I've answered emails at 3 o'clock in the morning from somebody that said, hey, my father passed away. How do I get the Honor Guard, at our service? And so I direct them to you all. I direct them to the funeral homes and explain to them what the process is and how this is going to work. And so, it's been wonderful because, being the founder of this organization, a lot of people don't know that I'm a funeral director. And so I get to walk them through and talk them through it. And I get to explain to them about having, full military honors and going to the cemetery and about celebrating a life and, having people present. And so I'm working for you all. I'm lining them up for you. I'm getting phone calls and I'm getting emails from individuals saying, hey, the Honor Guard's not present, in our area. What can you do for me, Rich? And so I'm actually working with funeral directors and I'm reaching out to Honor Guards in other areas and I'm having them travel 100 miles to perform a service for a Purple Heart recipient. And so if you think about it, and we all know, what revenues are doing in funeral service nowadays, but I don't think $250 per firm is much of an ask. I think we all can afford that one. I would love 500, even 1,000. I got $1,000 donation the other day from Scott McKenzie Ball. He saw the announcement about this, and he sent a $1,000 donation in, and so he took care of 4 funerals right there. So, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, and what I want to do with that money is I want to get an endowment fund. I'd like to build an endowment fund of $5 million, and I'd like to use the interest off of that money to run the organization. And then I would like any of the monies that come in to go straight to the Honor Guard members. And right now, it's kind of funny. Being a funeral director, I know the funeral business. That's all I know. I started out as a grave digger. This nonprofit world's a whole different world. And so there are different percentages you have to watch out for. excuse me, and if you're spending too much money on promotion and you're not giving monies away to, to the honor guards, people don't like that. They want to make sure hey, I donated you $1,000. I want to make sure it's going to those honor guards.
Beyond financial donations, how can funeral service professionals get involved?
For the funeral home professional, of course, donate. I think that is absolutely wonderful. Can I bring up my coloring book right now?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does that mess you up? They say you become successful when you've written a book, and so I like to proudly tell you that I'm an author, and this is my book.
Congratulations.
And so it's a coloring book that we have just created, and it's called Colors of Honor. And so if you're interested, and if you all have a piece of paper in front of you, if you could email info@operationhonorguard.us and let me know if you are interested in having coloring books. It basically is a coloring book that explains what goes on in a military funeral. And then on the back of the coloring book, right here, it's got a QR code that whoever you give this out to, the moms and dads can go on there, and then they can donate money to buy coloring books for other individuals as well. And so my goal is that these coloring books don't cost John Q. Public anything. And so, we're looking at $5 a coloring book right now. And so for you to get 100 coloring books and, pass them out or have them at your funeral home. Another thing that we're going to do, my family's going to do in our area, we're actually going to go to the schools, and I have a lesson plan. If you go to operationhonorguard.us and hit the publications tab, there's a digital version of this. I don't know, Lacy, did you look at that? I sent you.
I did look at that. I love it.
You can flip through it, but also there's a lesson plan that goes with it, and you can actually hold the lesson for the class for that day. So again, you're looking for a great PR program for your funeral home. I got it, and it's a coloring book. And so my goal is to have the coloring book sustain itself by donations from family members that understand what we're doing and what it did for their child. So email me. I just ordered my first 100. I've never done a coloring book before, and so I just had our first print, and so I'm getting ready to order another batch of them. And so send me a donation and let me know, and let's order 1,000 coloring books. I'd love to get them out across the United States. And then another thing that you can do as funeral service is go to your local honor guard and have them go to operationhonorguard.us and have them register their honor guard in our national database. And I'm getting calls from across the nation from family members looking for an honor guard, and they'll take cremated remains from Texas, back to Iowa, and we've decided we're going to finally bury Dad. And how do we get a hold of the honor guard? And so I'm trying to put together the nation's only honor guard database. And so if you can get your local honor guard to register, if you go to our homepage, there's a red button that says register. Click on there, and then they'll fill out all the information for me, and who to contact, and it gives me 2 contact numbers. I get phone calls and emails from professional sports teams that say, hey, we have a game this Sunday, and we need a honor or color guard there. Who can we get? And so I would love to be able just to send them to our database, and they can do that. So money, coloring books, and have your honor guard donate. Anything else, info@operationhonorguard.us. If you have an idea, and if you have an idea, how you think you could, get involved with us that makes sense, I'm open to it. It's all about raising money for the honor guards, and so there's no rights or wrongs. Let's partner up and let's figure out how we're going to do this.
Well, Doug Miller of Johnson Consulting Group, he has had the opportunity to attend Operation Honor Guard fundraising events at cemeteries in the very, very beginning. And he shared with me that the energy from the community, the funeral professionals was absolutely amazing, and getting involved, great ideas. And I'm really hoping that you reach those goals by the end of this virtual event and by the end of the year. And I know that you want to take Operation Honor Guard to Washington and sit down with decision makers about creating a $100 million government fund to support honor guards nationwide. What is your strategy for getting in front of the right people and making this case?
You know what? Since I was quoted by saying that, I think it was last year, I've had a change of heart. With that,
More breaking news.
yes. Right now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Washington's a mess right now. I don't want them having my monies. I've kind of looked at this and decided the way to go is let's do this as Operation Honor Guard. Let's do this as an organization, as an industry, as funeral industry. We'll tend to the finances, I'm not being political here. I just know right now our nation's a mess right now, and last thing I want to do is go to Washington D.C. I'm starting to find out that I can have some better successes now, and get the word out. I don't know if people had seen one of my social media posts, but earlier this year I was on News Nation. That's a pretty big thing for us, and that's a national news organization, and I think we can get there more often now. And if I can tell my story, I think I think my board of directors, I think we'll do a better job with the 100 million.
Well, I'm going to skip my next question, which was what needs to change in Washington. And I want to talk about why this work really, truly matters to you. And I know that you've described being at the collection sites during telethons where people drive up, donate, hop out of their car, and they hug the Honor Guard member and the tears start flowing. What do those moments teach you about this work, and why does it matter, and how does it fuel you?
What it has done for me is it made me realize as a funeral director something that I even think I've taken for granted often. You call up the Honor Guard members and they show up at the cemetery, and we've all been there. You show up, and we've had a long minister who had a time of sharing, and we arrive, probably a half hour later than usual, and the Honor Guard members, that you're up there and they're chewing you out because we've been waiting so long. But at the end of the day, this is about the families. This is about, that flag being presented to the family and just what that means. Just to see the tears, I will get on our day of giving events, somebody will hand an envelope and it'll have $100 bill in the envelope, but it'll have a story written about how much that the military rights meant to their family. And if we don't do something, if we don't recruit these younger veterans, if we don't uniform these veterans, and if we let the tradition of final military honors go to the wayside, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. And I want you to tell us about the national database of honor guards before we switch it over to Maddie and get our questions.
Sure. So this national database that I'm trying to put together, as I said, there are nearly 10,000 honor guards across the United States. It'll allow me to have all this data together. I can then reach out by email. I can send out to these honor guards information. Not only, do I want to have the list of the honor guard members, I want to be able to say, hey, we just got a donation from Coca-Cola of $1 million. Send in your grant requests now. And so I can communicate with all the honor guards in the nation. And I think that is huge. Something else too, I will from time to time send them some training resources. One thing that I have noticed, and as I have gone across the United States and worked with the Honor Guard members, and is that a lot of these honor guard members aren't trained correctly, and they're not doing things correctly, and their flags are in different orders. I'll get a picture somebody will send me, and I will post it on social media, and then I will get comments from veterans saying, "Oh, the flag's in the wrong place," or whatever. Well, I'm kind of like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I understand." We're not really worried about it being correct. We're worried about getting money for these individuals. But at the end of the day, I do think too we need to provide more resources and allow these honor guards to get trained better as well. So this database is going to be a huge thing for me. For you funeral directors, you can go on to operationhonorguard.us down the road, and you don't need to contact anybody. It's kind of like having the networks of funeral homes across the United States. It's so easy to go there and reach out to them. So being a funeral director myself, I'm thinking, hey, how easy to go to operationhonorguard.us and find out who's in Phoenix, Arizona.
And 5 years from now, what does success look like to you beyond the dollar amount that's raised?
The success to me would be giving out yearly $5 million in grants, helping outfit thousands of honor guard members each year. Success to me is to have that endowment fund, to have the $5 to $10 million in there, and allow the interest coming off of that to run the organization itself. I would love to have a staff. Right now, you're looking at the president, founder, accounts payable person. I do it all. Social media. Would love to have a couple people involved to help do the daily business of the nonprofit, because I'm a people person. I want to be out handing checks. I want to be on the road. I want to be talking to people. Another thing a big dream of mine in 5 years is I want to have a national TV commercial. I want to be on the major networks. And I think that's going to happen. And I think if I can, get the story out there, I want to be a Folds of Honor. I want to be a Tunnel of Towers. I want to be a Wounded Warrior. The need is that great. 5 years from now, I want to have a full national database. I want to have all of the honor guards on that, database. And then I want to, in 5 years, say, hey, we have handed out hundreds of thousands of coloring books. And, if I can put my head on my pillow 5 years from now and say that I've accomplished that, that's amazing.
That is amazing, and I'm here for it, Rich. This has been such an inspiring conversation, and I want to tune in to Maddie and see if we've had any questions come through the chat box.
Yes. Well, I mean, I just have to say, wow, I don't know how many times we've been able to say that we've had breaking news on the show. So very exciting. But yes, honestly, no questions are coming through. I think it's because everybody's signing up and reaching out for their coloring books.
I love it.
That's right. Yes.
I love it.
Rich, if you could share with everyone once again how they can get in contact with you, your site, etc.
Sure. Info at operationhonorguard.us. It goes into our main mailbox. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's Rich D as in dog at operationhonorguard.us. If you want to go check out our website, it is operationhonorguard.us. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, it's at Honor Vets. I'm proud to say we have over 10,000 followers now, which is pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that. And so I want to connect more with the funeral industry. I'm a little disappointed that the funeral industry hasn't taken hold as much as I've wanted it to. But luckily, with Johnson Consulting and with Lacy here, allowing me to have this platform to speak to you all, I think we can all take this a step forward, and looking forward to hearing from many of you.
We're honored to be a part of your mission. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Maddie, for working so hard behind the scenes every single month. Audience, I want you to save the date for January 10th at 2 p.m. Standard Eastern Time for our next Johnson Consulting conversation, where I will be joined by Welton Hong, founder of Ring Ring Marketing. Until next time, I'm LacyRobinson. Thank you, Rich. Best of luck to you. And we appreciate you joining us and sharing all about Operation Honor Guard.
Thank you.